recognized by the Commission for Independent Education, Florida Department of Education. He is an expert in South Asian religions and philosophy, focusing on the preservation and translation of classical texts to make them more accessible to wider audiences. He also serves as the senior editor of the Journal of Vaishnava Studies, the longest-running academic journal in Hindu studies in the Western world. He received his MA and PhD in South Asian languages and civilizations from the University of Chicago in 2014, following a Master's of Studies in Theology and Religious Studies from Oxford University in 2006. Welcome, Krishna Abhishek.
Thank you. Thank you. It is my great honor and distinct pleasure to be with all of you here tonight. As our friend Bruce said, I straddle two worlds. I have a position in India as the Dean of Faculty in Dharma Studies, which is one of the largest Dharma Studies program in India, and it just recently started. And so sometimes I'm up in the middle of the night attending meetings for them. And then I'm also the director of the Institute for Vaishnava Studies, which is here in Gainesville. So essentially I'm traveling back and forth and splitting my time, and I don't know how that works. Except there is my yoga practice, which I'll explain tonight, which makes all of this possible. But before we begin, I want us to try out a small exercise so that we are grounded and we are ready for the evening. So wherever you are, if you can just sit, straighten your spine a little bit, and take a deep, long breath in. Hold it for a second. And when you breathe out like me. Let's take another deep breath. This time from the bottom of your lungs. One more time. Deep breath and exhale. Gently open your eyes and just be there and notice the slight change in the way you're perceiving this room. Do you see a slight change? The colors look a little different. Do you feel a little different? Just a little bit, maybe 0.001%. Right? This is the power of meditative chanting. Okay, this is the power of, what is it? When meditative chanting is done as a personal practice, it's called japa. Yes, thank you. What's your name? Now she's hiding. When it is done together with everybody, it is called Sankirtan. And you know what samadhi, how many of us in this room know what samadhi is? Samadhi. Samadhi, okay. How many of us are hearing it for the first time? Samadhi. Okay, so we know what samadhi is. Kirtan or Sankirtan is shared samadhi. It is the highest state of consciousness that a person can experience if done right. But if you are trying to experience something really high, you need to be grounded in something firm, isn't it? Have you experienced or seen, at least on TV, some of these SpaceX rockets going up, putting satellites in the sky, going to the Mars, putting a Tesla in orbit? Have you seen that? Can you launch a rocket from Krishna House? Not really. Why not? The ground isn't firm yet, right? The base that you need for a rocket to fly has to be built very carefully. And then once that base is built, you can shoot rocket after rocket after rocket. And if you're smart enough, you can also get them to come back. Isn't it? That same principle applies to yoga. Yoga can give us the highest experience that is possible for our consciousness. And that experience is called samadhi. But if you experience samadhi without having a proper foundation, that rocket won't fly. So today I want to talk about these 5 basic principles of being grounded before you can start your yoga practice. Now, before I begin, I want to say this. You don't need to buy yoga pants to do yoga. You don't need a yoga studio membership to do yoga. In fact, before coming to America, I didn't even know what a yoga studio was. I heard for the first time. I thought it was like an art studio, but then I saw, oh, they are, renting or buying spaces and kind of decorating it in a very sexy way, and charging you a lot of dollars. Okay? You don't need money to do yoga. You don't need to be spiritual to do yoga. You just need, to be very honest, be human to do yoga. So the 5 principles that I'm going to talk about tonight are the 5 principles of being human. Right? The 5 principles of being human. Am I clear so far? Clear so far? Okay. If you are not focused on being human, you can be a student, you can be a professional, you can't be an athlete, you can't be a politician, you can't be a yogi. Being human is the foundation of everything else you do in this world. And therefore, the Yoga Sutras, which can be called the Bible of Yoga, explains that there are 5 yamas, 5 ground rules. And the first ground rule of yoga is, anybody here who knows the 5 yamas? Tell me. You know 1 or 2. Okay, start with that. Satya. Anybody knows what Satya means? Yes. Satya means honesty, integrity. If you aren't honest, if you don't have integrity, you're not being human. As simple. Even animals have integrity. You go to a jungle, if a lion is hungry, the lion will eat you. If the lion is not hungry, the lion will spare you. You know this? Animals will never hurt you unless they feel threatened. Non-violence is the norm of nature. Violence is only meant for self-protection. To be non-violent is the second yama, which is ahimsa. Satya and ahimsa are the first two foundations of yoga, the first 2 pillars of yoga. Now I'm going to tell you a little story from the last century that explains how this works in real life. Okay, ready for a little story? The story needs a background, and those of us here who are familiar with Indian history might know this. But around the 1930s, which is how many years back? About a century? 90 years back. So not too far back. There was a small island country that ruled over a vast subcontinent. I'm talking about Britain and India. And somehow Britain thought that British crisis has to be an Indian emergency. Do you know what that means? If Britain was running out of money, the Indians needed to work harder to pay for everything British. And then one fine day they decided that we need to create something called a salt tax. Do you know what a salt tax is? Tell me what the salt tax is.
So they decided to add tax on producing salt.
Yes, so if Indians in India produce salt on their homeland, they had to pay taxes to the British to have salt. Isn't that funny? I mean, tomorrow morning I could just wake up and say Gainesville should have something like an air tax. And if I have the guns and the power, I'll probably, implement it. But here's what happened. Here's what happened. There was a lawyer, Mohandas Gandhi, who eventually got to be known as Mahatma Gandhi, who dug into the principles of yoga and said that, whenever we are faced with these difficult situations, if we practice the fundamental principles, Satya and Ahimsa, there is no power on this planet, in this universe, that can stand in the face of the power of these two. So here's what we are going to do. We will walk in our own country and go to the ocean and take water and boil it and make salt. And by that, we will break the British law of putting unfair taxes on a basic necessity. And you can't really arrest people for walking in their own country, can you? Can you? And here's what happened. Do we have YouTube here? Can we please search something up? Here's something that happened. Within a month, millions of people were on the streets. Search for Salt March original footage. Millions of people on the streets singing and dancing on their way to the ocean to make salt, under the threat that they were going to be arrested. But nobody was afraid because they knew they were standing up for righteous principles. Right? Can we put it on the TV, please? Nate, thank you. Thanks for the ad too. So Satya essentially means in our interactions, if you've, in my daughter's language, if there was a cap, you know what cap is in millennial, or not millennial, there's Gen Alpha language. Anybody knows what cap means? A cap means to lie. Right. If you've caught yourself, let's pause it, we'll get back to this. Thank you. If you've caught yourself doing that, if you've caught yourself making a mistake, it's always a good idea. Hey, Haribo. It's always a good idea to say sorry and speak the truth. As simple as that. It's as simple as that. Do we expect our politicians to be honest?
Yes.
Do we expect? Do we? Half this room is split. Half the room, has given up on our politicians. They're saying no, we don't expect them anymore. But in an ideal world, do you expect your politicians to be honest? Right? They are just human like you. They are ruling over you. They are spending your money that you've paid in taxes. If they're not honest, do you feel bad about it? We've given up. This actually shows how much rot we will keep up with, even though we know that that's not the right thing. Huh?
Telling you guys progress.
I know. I know, but wouldn't it be nice if the politicians were honest? We at least agree with that. Don't you expect people around you to be non-violent? If you were walking around 13th Avenue here and somebody just, this place happened to be the place where you got a sucker punch and your wallet disappeared in a split second, would you feel safe being around campus? So you expect people around you to be honest and be non-violent. And these are the first two principles of yoga. If you are not honest, if you're not non-violent, you cannot be a yogi. You cannot even be a human. Right? It's as simple as that. Am I clear so far? You ready for the other three? Ready? So first one is satya, the second one is ahimsa, the third one is aparigraha. Can I hear you repeat it once with me? Aparigraha. And the fourth one is asteya. Okay. Sta in Sanskrit means to steal. It sounds similar to the English word steal, sta, steal. Right? To steal is against the principles of yoga. As simple. Thou shalt not. And grah means to grasp. Right? To grasp something that belongs to somebody else. Am I clear so far? To grasp something that belongs to somebody else, to snatch it, to grab it with their knowledge is grah. Sounds a very gruffy word. Aparigraha means to not grab things that belongs to others. And steal means to get stuff that belongs to others without their knowledge. Am I making sense? To grab other people's things without their knowledge is stealing. To grab it with their knowledge is grabbing. These two are against the principles of yoga. Clear so far? If you're grabbing something that belongs to somebody else, you cannot be a yogi, you can't even be a human. If you're stealing something that belongs to somebody else without their knowledge, you cannot be a yogi. So these are the first four pillars of yoga. Clear?
So English were not yogis.
Huh?
English, when they were dancing for stuff, they were not yogis.
They were against the principles of yoga. The fifth principle is brahmacharya. Brahman means reality, and chara means to delight in and go about. So when you go out for a stroll in the evening, have you gone out for a stroll in the evening ever? That's like, if I see you going, it says charanti, that you're going around. And Brahma, so go about in your life being grounded in reality is brahmacharya. Clear? In the system of education from ancient India, it is said that a student should practice brahmacharya, and for a student to be in reality means to be single and celibate. If you start dating when you are going through your education, very likely it will hamper your education. Clear so far? If you are dating while you are going through your education, it will very likely hamper your education. And I have been a professor long enough to know so many students drop out of their programs because they had a heartbreak. Their grades fall because they had a heartbreak. In the Vedic system, they say that by nature's gift, you already have 10 to 13 or 14 years in your life where you don't even know what sex is. And then you take a few more years to complete your education before you decide to start dating and settle down. For students, therefore, brahmacharya is celibacy. But brahmacharya doesn't necessarily mean celibacy in all contexts. To dwell in reality is brahmacharya. That means to have temperance. Srila Prabhupada explains that sex life within the bounds of marriage is brahmacharya. Did you know that? Sex life within the bounds of marriage is brahmacharya. And to know that everything around us is interconnected and we are a part of that system, and therefore being responsible in our relationships with others is also brahmacharya. It's the broadest definition of brahmacharya. Brahmacharya means you honor the life in front of you to that extent where you do not simply sexualize or economize that object. That is brahmacharya. So when you look at a person, you just don't look at dollar signs on his or her forehead. That is brahmacharya. Am I clear so far? So these are the 5 pillars of yoga. These 5 pillars of yoga are also explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam as the 4 pillars of dharma. And here is a story. Ready for a little story? Once upon a time, okay, and I'm going to quiz you after this story, so please pay attention. Once upon a time, there was a holy man who had taken a vow of silence for the rest of his life. And when he realized that being silent doesn't, quite cut it, sometimes he can say things with gestures. He took a second vow that not only will I be silent, but I will also only speak the truth, Satya. And I tell you, these little things, they are very good at Satya. They will just say things on your face, right? Children naturally experience Satya. When we grow up as adults, we learn how to lie. So this person had taken this vow of Satya and Mauna. Mauna means silence. And he went to the forest and he was sitting and meditating. And then in the middle of the night, suddenly he heard a lot of ruckus and a man running as if his life was in danger. Suddenly out of nowhere appeared this elderly villager to him and said, "Save me." And the first thing that crossed his mind is, how? But by habit, he was always silent, so he couldn't say anything. And then he realized that this was an innocent man who was running for his life, being chased by a group of murderers who wanted to kill him and loot him. And in the heat of the moment, this man suddenly hid behind the bushes fast enough to avoid the attention of the murderers that were chasing him. Okay? Now, this is the thought experiment I want to do with you tonight. I want you to become like that silent yogi who is nodding, because you realize you're being silent while I'm talking and you're nodding with your head. You're like that silent yogi. Okay? You know where this innocent man is hiding. And now the murderers come and they put a knife on your throat and say, "Tell me where he is hiding." Okay? Now either you're going to die or this man is going to die. What would you do? Do we have the microphone? What would you do? Would you say where the man is hiding to save your life, or would you keep quiet? Let's pass the mic to this gentleman at the back. What's your name, sir? Manthan.
So you said, okay. Hello. Okay. So you said that okay, the man was meditating in the jungle, right?
Yes.
And the old man it behind the bushes. So there will be naturally so many bushes. So if they put knife
The robbers came and they are holding the knife on
say,
this,
okay, he's around the bush.
but you cannot talk. You cannot talk. At this moment, yes, Prabhu. Let's give the microphone to him. Thank you, Advaita Prabhu. So you would say where he is hiding, just to.
Just around the bush. It's there beautiful.
Around the bush. You would be ambiguous.
Right?
You would be ambiguous. You wouldn't say where exactly, but say go far. Like.
Like you just
I would point out in the opposite direction.
So you would lie and break a vow.
No, I wouldn't lie.
But that's telling a lie with gestures.
If we consider the earth is round,
If we consider the earth is round. Thank you. That is Columbus logic. That is Columbus logic. The earth is round. I'm going to get to India. Just keep sailing.
I've circumvented.
Huh?
I've circumvented.
You would have bent the truth a little bit.
Bend in a full circle.
Okay. This story is from the great epic called the Mahabharata.
yeah, that's right.
And this question was asked to Maharaj Yudhishthira when he was learning about two things, dharma and yoga. What is dharma? What is yoga? And he said, dharma is the practice of 4 values. Can I hear you repeat it with me? Satya means truthfulness, honesty, integrity. Saucha means cleanliness, purity, hygiene. Tapa, which means enterprise, endurance, resilience, austerity. And daya, compassion, kindness, empathy. And Yudhishthir Maharaj asked that, okay, these 4 pillars of dharma are great. But what happens if there is a conflict between being honest and being compassionate? Sometimes when you're trying to be kind and when you're trying to be honest, it doesn't always work very well together. And so, this story was told to ask the question, if you were that sadhu sitting in the forest who had taken that vow of silence and honesty, and a knife was on your neck, and you knew where this innocent man was hiding, would you speak the truth? Or would you be kind and speak the lie? And Advaita Prabhu said, I just point the other direction and let them wander the world. And our Manthan Prabhu said that, this is the big forest, go look, like a university professor. Never gives you the answer, just say, go look. Right? What do you think happened in the real story? Did this sadhu say where this person was hiding, or? You think it was no? The sadhu didn't say? Okay. How many of you think the sadhu did not say where this man was hiding? How many of you think the sadhu said where this man was hiding? Have you read the book?
No, I think it's more of a human nature, right? When it comes to you just get.
Oh my God, are you a psych major?
Sorry? No.
Okay. The story says the sadhu actually ended up nodding with his head and indicating where this man was hiding, and this man lost his life. And the sadhu had blood on his hands for the rest of his life, and he could never meditate. Therefore, compassion is always a higher value than honesty. Sri Krishna says, Satyam hitam priyam vada. That whenever you're saying something, make sure you're speaking the truth. But sometimes we weaponize the truth, and we tell the truth in such a way that it feels nice to see hurt in the other person's face. That's not how we should speak the truth. And both Sri Krishna and Plato, the Greek philosopher, say the same thing. Whatever you speak must be true. Yes. it must be for the benefit of the other person. When we speak the truth, do we first sit down and think, or stop ourselves and think, is this going to benefit the other person? If the answer is no, pause. How can I speak the truth so that it benefits the other person? And the third quality of truth is it must be spoken nicely. If you look at, how many of you read the Bhagavad Gita, or at least seen the book? You know, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna is extremely frustrated. He has groomed Arjuna all his life to do the right thing. And at the most critical juncture, when he is supposed to do the right thing, Arjuna says, I can't do this. Does Sri Krishna speak the truth to Arjuna in a way that hurts Arjuna? Or is it for the benefit of Arjuna? And have you seen the language of the Bhagavad Gita? If you know some Sanskrit, you will know how sweet it is. So Sri Krishna, by his own personal example, shows that truth or satya spoken must hold water. It must be said for the benefit of the other person, and it must be said well. But above truth is compassion. And in the Mahabharata, Sri Krishna saw that these 4 pillars of dharma was under threat. And he tried to solve the problem by diplomacy many times, and it failed. And when he saw that these values of dharma was at stake, he said that let there be war. It is the last option. So war was the last option, it wasn't the first option. And that is dharma. Dharma is the basis, yoga is the method, rasa is the goal. Am I clear so far? Dharma is the, yoga is the, and rasa is the, you know what rasa is? Anybody who knows what, when you, how many of you have had a gulab jamun here at Krishna House? How many of you love the halwa for Krishna lunch halwa? You know, when I was coming out the door tonight, I told my mom I was going to Krishna House to give a talk, and she said, do they have any halwa left? Can you bring some for me? You know, the thing that you crave and you enjoy is called rasa. Being human is dharma. Developing spiritually is yoga. The reason you do it, what you get out of it, is rasa, enjoyment. All of us are enjoying in this world, but some of us realize that when we enjoy, that enjoyment after some time becomes very stale. I just found out like a week or so back that there is a theme park about an hour and a half north of Gainesville called, what is it called in Valdosta? Wild Adventures. And I haven't been in a theme park in 20 years. But, you know, I have seen people get on these rides and leave at the end of the day with their blood drained. They've been on so many rides, they're like, they can't take it anymore. How many of us here in this room love sweets? I love sweets. How many of you have loved fried stuff? If you constantly have kachoris and gulab jamuns every day for breakfast, lunch and dinner, and had no options, I already see a lot of heads nodding like that. Silent, honest sadhu. We can have it, right? So pleasure in this material world, rasa in this material world becomes stale very quickly. In Hollywood movies, they say that if you're in a relationship, there is something called a 7-year itch. You know what that means? If you're in a relationship after every 7 years, you think, okay, I've had enough. It's time to move on. And there was one time even a billboard on a pass on a highway which said, life is short, get a divorce. Why do people do that? Because the rasa is not working out. So rasa is the spirit of life, is the essence of life, the reason we live, right? And we live to enjoy. And there are things that we enjoy by nature's blessings. Like if you are tired, your body will crave sleep. And you will enjoy that sleep. Mother Nature has a way of making you enjoy the little things that are actually punishments. You feel hunger, you eat food, you enjoy it. Right? And so these little things are just basic bodily enjoyments. And whether you're not you like it, you have to eat your meals every day. You've got to sleep, you got to shower, you got to talk to people. These are basic things. All right? And then, how many of us know of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Is Nate here? Can we open up another tab with Maslow's hierarchy of needs? When our bodily needs are fulfilled, then we go into other kinds of needs. We see, okay, are we getting an education? Are we getting validation from the people we love? Right? If your friends are having a party and you realize that you are not invited, how would you feel? Your friends are having a party and you are not invited. Will they remain your friends? You could lose your friendship over that kind of validation. Let's look at that. Right? Belonging and love is above safety. You need a space to feel safe, right? You need friends to make you feel loved. You need to feel good about yourself. When you wake up and see your face in the mirror every morning, right, you spontaneously reach out for the toothbrush and the toothpaste because you don't want to smell bad. When you go out in the morning, even though you can't, nobody's smelling you standing in front of the mirror, you can't smell, mirror is seeing, smelling is a different thing, right? But you brace for the day and you clean yourself up. And then you keep going and going up. Then there's aesthetic needs. That you need to listen to a good song. How many of you have a Spotify membership? Spotify. Go to YouTube Music. Listen to songs, at least one song or some instrumental every day. See, that's aesthetic needs. How many of you like to clean your house when you have guests coming in? That's an aesthetic need. You don't want to invite somebody you love into a dumpster. Right? You do think. So that, by the way, my friends, is saucha, cleanliness. One of the pillars of yoga. Clean up. Right? And then comes self-actualization. That means if you realized I am going to be a UF student, you actually apply. You get through. You become that lawyer. You become that engineer. Right? You pursue your dreams. But more than that, all of those things make you feel stuck sooner or later. And you will need freedom. Right? Experiencing love of God is rasa in freedom. When you experience love of God in your heart, you are experiencing rasa in freedom. All other experiences of love in this world, is not in freedom. That's the only difference between worldly love and spiritual love. In this world, if somebody proposes you, says I love you, and next day they disappear and ghost you, has it happened? So many times. I meet so many people every day. They tell me that, they were so nice, that date went so well, and then they disappeared. They could have just told me what went wrong. I could have lived in peace. It's so hard to accept rejection. Right? But it's a fact of life. If you love in this world, somebody's going to break your heart like that. How many of you have parents who are empty nesters? They spent all their lives, especially Indian kids in America. I know. They spend all their lives to see their children go away to another continent. They won't get a visa to come here very easily. Airplane tickets are very, very expensive. You hardly get to see your kids, and you've given your life to raising them. It's sad, isn't it? But it's a fact of life. To love means to be hurt. Except in the material world, what happens is when we get hurt, when we love, that pain puts us in more depression, more anxiety and more stress. But here is what yoga does to you. When that same love is spiritual, you will experience heartbreak. But that heartbreak will leave you more energized, enthusiastic and bright. And this is the magic of spiritual life. This is the magic of the spiritual world. If you look at, how many of you have seen Sri Radha and Krishna? Radha Krishna. Do we have a picture of Radha Krishna? The altar is closed. If you look at the life of Sri Radha, it's the most heartbreaking story. Most heartbreaking story. But you know, even in her heartbreak, she is blessing everybody. She is inviting people to Krishna's service. You know, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, we have the altar closed, but very soon it will be open. Gauranga Mahaprabhu was a professor of grammar and logic in a city called Navadvip in the east of India, in a place known as Bengal. It was at a time when India was divided into many kingdoms that were at war with one another. In Delhi, there was the Sultanate. How many of you have heard of the Delhi Sultanate? In Bengal, there was the Shahi dynasty. In Orissa, there was the Gajapati dynasty. In South India, there was the empire of Vijayanagara. And all these empires were not always in love with one another. Especially in North India, there was a mass scale butchering, looting, plundering, and raping, along with burning libraries and destroying temples. In the middle of all that, Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, who was very well known for his brilliance, got together with his mentor. Can we have a picture of Panchatattva, please, Net Prabhu? Got together with his mentor, who was a professor of philosophy, whose name was Advaita Acharya. Advaita Acharya. On the extreme left, you see that deity, old man with a beard. He Advaita Acharya. He was Mahaprabhu's professor. Very well known. Then on, Mahaprabhu is in the center. On his left was his classmate and best friend, a professor of epics called Gadadhar Pandit. And to the extreme right was his friend, supporter and financer, also a professor of Sanskrit, called Srivas Pandit. So these professors got together at a time when dharma in India was in shambles. And if you heard of that verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya, how many of us know this? Yada Yada, let's repeat with me. Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glanir Bhavati Bharata Abhyutthanam Adharmasya Tadatmanam Srijamyaham Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Cha Dushkritam Dharma Sangsthapanarthaya Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. Sri Krishna makes a promise. Whenever and wherever there is a decline of dharma. What is dharma? Satya, Saucha, Tapa and Whenever and wherever there is a decline of, what are the four things? And a rise of adharma, which is the opposite qualities. I manifest personally. Srijami, I create myself. Why? To protect the virtuous and destroy the vicious. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. And for what reason? Dharma samastha. To re-establish dharma. Dhamma samasthapanarthaya sambhavami. I make it possible. Yuge yuge. Age after age. Right? Like we need to clean our house periodically, God needs to appear on this planet periodically to re-establish dharma, yoga and rasa. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who is the pioneer of the worldwide bhakti movement, explains that we should not think God appears only in India. Wherever there are humans and there is society and there is community, these avatars appear and they establish dharma. And wherever there are devotees of that Bhagavan, rasa will be established. Right? And these three simple things are the DNA of any legitimate spiritual tradition that you will find on this planet. You don't have to be a Hindu, you don't have to be a Muslim, you don't have to be a Jain, you don't have to be a Sikh. You can get rid of all labels, and yet these four values will remain as human values, and therefore they are known as Sanatana, which means timeless, and Dharma means values, timeless values. Sanatan Dharma means, some people translate it as Hinduism, which is okay, it's a cultural translation, but Sanatan Dharma means timeless values. Satya, Saucha, Tapa and Daya. So, after this class, if you find yourself in a situation where you are very tempted to give somebody a piece of your mind, take a deep breath, smile, and don't bring out your bazooka. And be nice. Because when you break that cycle of karma, the other person will have a change of heart. I spoke about the four professors. One on the extreme left is Advaita Acharya. One on the extreme right is Srivas Pandit. The one left to Srivas Pandit is Gadadhar Pandit, and in the middle there is Gauranga Mahaprabhu. The four professors. The fifth one in the blue dress wasn't exactly a professor, but I want to finish by telling you his story and asking you whether you think he is a professor or not. Ready for this? When he was very young, he was taken by a wandering monk. A wandering monk came to his house and told his dad that, hey, I want your child. Don't worry, I will not. I want your child. And the father asked why. He said, I want an assistant. He will travel with me across India. And in those days, if you went out traveling, your family is never going to see you again. Unlike coming to America. And his father started thinking that if I don't let my son go, this monk is going to be very upset and angry, and I don't want to upset this person. But if I let my child go, I will never see him again. If you were the parent, what would you do? Would you let him go, or would you? You're risking the ruin of your family with the anger of somebody, And on the other hand, you might never see your son again, but he will wander the length and breadth of the country. Huh? You won't let go? Your parents let you go. Advaita Prabhu will say the world is round. That way. Keep walking straight. Don't turn left or right, just straight. So his father let him go. And he never had a formal education. But the Mahabharata said that traveling is the best form of education. And by the time he was in his 30s, he was so well traveled that when he came back to Navadvip and met Gauranga Mahaprabhu, the top 4 professors of the time, and mind you, Navadvip and Shantipur was the Oxford and Cambridge of Asia. Navadvip and Shantipur was the Oxford and Cambridge of Asia. So this is like the top professors at the top educational institute deciding that they want to build a team that will spread dharma, yoga and rasa. And Mahaprabhu, Gauranga Mahaprabhu immediately embraced Nityananda Prabhu. When are we opening the altar? You're the boss. We can open the altar and they can get darshan of Gauranga Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. They were the opposite characters in a way. Gauranga Mahaprabhu was somber, serene. Nityananda Prabhu was, you know what buccaneering means? Happy-go-lucky. Didn't take anything seriously. Gauranga Mahaprabhu would teach his students grammar. Nityananda would joke about it. Gauranga Mahaprabhu would go out singing in the streets and Nityananda Prabhu would chase the kids. One day they went to the Ganga to take a bath, and you know what Nityananda did? He jumped in and he hugged a crocodile. We are Gator Nation. Don't try this in Gainesville. He hugged a gator, not a human gator, a real gator. And the gator was like, "Leave me!" And Nityananda squeezed the gator harder. The more the gator tried to let go, and kept telling the gator, "Hari Bol." You know what that means? You know what that means? Hari Bol. Chant the names of God. Hari Bol. And all his friends were scared. And he was like, who cares? And when Gauranga Mahaprabhu decided that, not everybody is taking me seriously. I need to become a monk. If I become a monk, then everybody will actually listen to me. So Gauranga Mahaprabhu went and, unknown to most of his friends and followers, and much to their heartbreak, became a monk and left home. And you know what Nityananda Prabhu did after Gauranga Mahaprabhu became a monk? He took his monastic rod and broke it into 3 pieces and gave it, monk my foot. So they were like that. They were always at odds. They were like brothers. They were fighting. They loved each other. But at the same time, they were the highest exemplars of dharma. And this is what had happened about 500 years back. And tonight's topic is how to practice the 4 values of dharma, experience yoga, and get to the point of rasa, right? So Nityananda Prabhu taught that the way you get to experiencing rasa is by singing and chanting the sweetest, okay? When I say the sweetest, I really mean it. Sweetest, sweetest, sweetest 16 words that form a mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We chant it all the time, but you want to know why it is the sweetest? How many of us want to know why it is sweet? The story behind the mantra. Okay. How are we doing with time? 5 minutes. Here is the love story of Hare Krishna in 5 minutes. Once upon a time, there appeared somebody on earth whose activities were so special that it couldn't be anyone but God. And in every culture, every situation, whenever God appears, He does special things. To Moses, God appears as a burning bush. To Muhammad, peace be upon him, God appears as a booming voice. To Mother Yashoda in Vrindavan 5,000 years ago, God appeared as a little boy who would steal butter and eat mud. And when Mother Yashoda caught him and said, "Hey, Krishna, Krishna," you know that poem, Johnny, Johnny? "Krishna, Krishna, are you eating mud?" Balaram said, "Yes, he was just eating mud." And Mother Yashoda goes, "Open your mouth." And Krishna, "I promise I wasn't eating dirt." And you know what Mother Yashoda sees in his mouth? The entire universe, including herself, and she says, "Oh my God, I'm sick today." Right? That's a whole lot of dirt. And when Krishna was growing up, all the girls in the village thought he was the coolest kid. And he was a film actor. In those days there was no film, there was drama, but he was an actor and he was a good dancer. And so all the girls went after him. Right? But right when he was about 7 or 8, they realized that no matter how many girls want him, Krishna wants this one girl who is a secret. He doesn't talk about her. Anayaradhita nunyam bhagavan haririshwara, Bhagavatam says. There's somebody who loved Krishna in a way that nobody else could. And you know what Krishna would call her? Any idea? Hare. Krishna would call her Hare. And they were such a sweet couple. And you know what she would call Krishna? Huh? Everybody called him Krishna, but she had a special name for him. Huh? Yes, you know what the word Ram means? The one in whom yogis delight, Ram. One who is romantic, Ram. Romance, Ram. Rama, romance. You hear the similarity? So Hare called Krishna Ram and Krishna called her Hare. And when Krishna was about 11, his uncle realized that if I let this person live, he is going to take away my kingdom. So he arranged a circus to get Krishna killed. Unfortunately, he himself got killed in that circus. And after that, Krishna's fame spread far and wide. And Krishna's uncle who tried to kill him, Kamsa, had a father-in-law called Jarasandha, who attacked Krishna's kingdom 17 times. And the rest of Krishna's life was fighting one battle after another. And there is one thing he couldn't do. He couldn't go back to his Hare. So when we chant Hare Krishna, our Gauriya Vaishnava Acharya has explained, it is the sweetest thing because we chant the names of Krishna and Hare together. But when we chant Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, you see their names are separate. So the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the mantra that talks about the sweetest love and separation of God and His beloved divine. Am I clear so far? This is the highest experience of rasa. And this is what they taught, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu. But you cannot reach there unless you follow dharma and practice yoga. And this is why Srila Prabhupada has given a system. If you want to become a yogi who attains samadhi very quickly, you first have to follow the 4 regulative principles, which is at least 4 of the 5 pillars of dharma. Right? Then yoga, as I said, doesn't need yoga pants, nor does it need yoga studio. Yoga means how you are living your life. The jugular vein, any biology people here, any medical student? Where is the jugular vein? Right here. It connects your head and your... Oh, sorry, I'm quizzing you. It connects your upper body with your lower body, your head with your heart. If you injure it, you're going to die. Yag, jag, yog. To attach a horse to a cart. You're yoking a horse to a cart. Yoke is yog. Right? Conjugal, when two people come together, that's yog. Yog means to unite. When we unite the soul with its divine source, that's yoga. Dharma is being human. Yoga is spiritual practice. Rasa is divine experience. But unless you have your dharma in place, your yoga is on shaky foundations, and unless your yoga is steady, you can't experience rasa. Right? This simply is the process of Krishna consciousness or Vaishnava yoga. Sridhar Swami and Madhvacharya, who are great teachers, preceptors in our line, explain the entire process of yoga as Vaishnava yoga. Clear? So it begins with, what are the 4 pillars of Dharma? Thank you, I'm done.
We're out of time.
I know.
Thank you, Krishna Abhishek.
If you have any questions, I'll be out here in the porch. You bring your plate, we'll hang out and have prasad together, and I'll answer any questions you have.
Would you like to leave the